Today on the Tim Marner podcast show, I've got James Allan.
Yes.
Yes. From Smelly Men.
Smelly Men, yeah.
Tell me about Smelly Men.
Well, Smelly Men is it's a brand aimed at men, surprisingly enough, and we sell natural soaps and deodorants primarily. And our whole ethos, our positioning is to help men smell better naturally. And the reason I started it was we were just talking before about jiu-jitsu, because I train jiu-jitsu. A big part of jiu-jitsu is getting very, very close to other people. So if someone doesn't smell good, you know about it pretty quickly. And weirdly enough, one of my training partners, he started as a white belt, and he was fairly overweight, and he really struggled with it. And I got paired up with him quite a lot, and I tried to help him as much as I could. And he just, at Christmas, it was about a year or two ago, he gave me a present and just said, I just wanted to thank you for supporting me. And it was a bar of soap. It was a bar of natural soap. And I hadn't thought about natural soap in years, because it was one of those things where you think you know what soap is. You think it's just that crap stuff you had at school, which makes your hands dry out. And a lot of soap is like that because it's made in a sort of manufactured kind of commercial process, and a lot of soap is crap. So I was a bit surprised, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And it turned out it's this lovely soap. It was natural. It was had a really nice scent to it. And I got thinking about it, and I just thought, well, what is it we wash ourselves with as men? And I can't think of much that's changed in the last 20 or 30 years in things like shower gels or body washes or spray-on deodorants or antiperspirants. They smell the same. They're usually something along the lines of pine fresh or lemon fresh, and it's basically like toilet cleaner smells. And it's all artificial fragrance. And the ingredients that go into a lot of these body washes, they're really harsh, and there's some really unpleasant ingredients like, I don't know if you've heard of SLS, which is sodium lauryl sulfate. And sodium lauryl sulfate was developed for engine degreaser. So it's designed to strip out the oils out of your skin. So it's not good. Obviously, there's a lot less in a body wash, but it's not good for your skin. You have other ingredients like parabens, which are really quite nasty preservatives. And they can interrupt your endocrine system and your hormonal production. And you'll find a lot of typical body washes will contain something called parfum, which sounds sort of vaguely French and Parisian and quite attractive, but it's actually just a term that the industry use to cover up a lot of nasty chemicals that produce fragrance. And a lot of people that end up going to the doctor with skin complaints, it's usually because of parfum or some kind of artificial fragrance that irritates the skin. And it's because you don't know what exactly has gone into the shower gel or to the product that you're putting on your skin. Very hard to pinpoint what's causing it, but it's just a sort of convenient little loophole that the skincare industry uses to avoid declaring exactly what's gone into their products. And as men, we just sort of go, well, it's just shower gel, it's just a body spray, it's fine. And most blokes think like that, and I thought like that for a very long time. It's just you go to the supermarket, you pick up a shower gel and a body spray, it's not too expensive, it's fine. And that's kind of it. And there are one or two alternatives out there, but not that many, and they're not as high profile as Nivea or Lynx. I mean, you think of body spray, you think Lynx.
Yeah.
And, without sort of being too rude about another brand, it contains a lot of that kind of stuff. And they do incredibly well because a lot of men don't really think beyond that. So I wanted to change that, and I wanted to offer men an alternative. And I suppose my thinking really was that if you want to use something natural or organic or vegan or quite pure, it tends to be aimed at women. It tends to be marketed and positioned towards women. And I think a lot of men feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's a bit like sort of walking into a women's underwear shop. You feel like I shouldn't be here, and I'm slightly embarrassed by it. So I wanted to create a brand that men would feel comfortable buying and would feel happy having on the shelf in front of them, by the mirror in the bathroom. And it was really deliberate to call it Smelly Men, because most people's reaction is, "You what? What do you mean?" And I think my test is, if you don't get the joke, I'm probably not for you, you know. And that's really the sort of story behind it. So at the moment, it's all about skincare. It's about personal grooming. But I think over time, it could be much more about broader health. So it's about mental health. It's physical health. It's about how men think about the way they look after themselves. And I suppose skincare is a bit of a metaphor about how little time and attention we give to ourselves as men. And I think mental health obviously has become a lot more considered by men, but it's still not enough.
Yeah.
We still know that suicide is a big problem for men. There's still way more men taking their own lives than women, or at least succeeding anyway. And so that's a big issue. The drama Adolescence, I don't know if you watched it. Yeah. Everyone's watched it. Yeah. It's hugely high profile, and it's effectively talking about men's and boys' mental health and how they view themselves and how they view masculinity. So I suppose in time, I feel like Smelly Men is not just about what we wash ourselves with, it's about how we look after ourselves much more broadly. But I think that's probably a little bit further down the line.
It's good though, mate. You know, the vision for it. I mean, I put a video out the other day about, you know, everybody's on this self-improvement hack, but really the trick is about self-love. Yeah. And I think people cross self-improvement with self-love, and it's not just sitting with yourself and being kind to yourself and just saying you are enough and I am beautiful, I am amazing, you know, with self-care, with a bat, you know what I mean? And just being in that moment for yourself is so important.
Totally agree. Yeah. It also it reminded me of a TV show I watched years ago, which was one of those fly-on-the-wall documentaries about the military. Mm-hmm. I think it was something like the Royal Marines or the Parachute Regiment or something. It was one of those things where they follow the recruits all the way through the process of going into boot camp and becoming soldiers. And there was one scene that I particularly remember where they had all these recruits who were probably, 18, 19 years old lads. And they got them into the shower block. And one of the NCOs stripped off naked, got a bar of soap, and he stood in front of all the recruits and said, "Right, I'm going to show you how to wash yourselves, because some of you don't know how to wash." And it was a literal demonstration of how do you get soap into a lather, what bits of you should be washing, what you should be focusing on. And it was fascinating because this was the Marines, it's the military. And for years, the military have known that if you're clean, you're going to be healthy. And as a soldier, the most important thing is to stay clean and healthy if you possibly can. You know, even if you're living in a shitty, trench in the middle of nowhere and there's bombs dropping, at least if you can brush your teeth and give yourself a wash, even if it's a flannel wash, you're going to be in a better place. And I thought that was quite profound, because an organisation like the Army or the Navy or whatever, it's all quite macho, it's quite male and, masculine. But they realise that there's connection between your physical well-being and your mental well-being. And there was always this sort of urban, I don't know if it was an urban legend or a sort of idea that the SAS used to always say that, if you were in the drop behind enemy lines and you had nothing, you should always try and clean your teeth. Because even if life felt like it was really shit, if you could brush your teeth, it would just bump your morale up a little bit. And I just thought that was really interesting. There was something really insightful about that. This connection between being cleaner, feeling fresher, and doing something to your mental state.
Yeah, taking care of yourself in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons, the way I've sort of structured my product range is it's not so much about scent, it's more about occasion. Which sounds a bit pretentious, but it's really just to say, as a bloke, there are different occasions in your week. Like, for example, getting up in the morning. You've got an early morning meeting, or you've got to get to the site, or whatever it is you've got to do, and you've got to drag yourself out of bed at 6 a.m. Well, I've got a product for that. and it's quite citrusy and it's just zingy and it wakes you up. Or another occasion could be you go to the gym, you're really, really tired, it's Saturday morning, you come back from the gym, you're exhausted, and it's called day off. And it's like, it's designed to relax you and calm you down. So there's that occasion. Yeah. And then there's a third occasion, it's called scrub up. And it's the idea, it's Friday night, you're getting yourself dressed up, putting on your nice clothes, nice pair of shoes, and you want to feel good, you want to have a bit of swagger about yourself. So it's sort of attaching occasion and the part of your week to the products that I sell.
It's actually more of a feeling to the product, which is nice.
It's a little story around them, I suppose. And it's quite common in the fragrance industry as well, which I'm not an expert in at all, but there's some really interesting stuff that fragrance brands do, which is to attach music. Some of the fragrance brands are sort of creating music around their brand, or they're creating stories. It's quite commonplace to tell stories around a particular fragrance. So I thought, well, why not do the same with soap and deodorant, which is usually a bit mundane.
Every brand does it though, don't they? The emotional thing. I mean, look at Flake, crumbly as chalk. You're just like,
Yeah, but it's I suppose when it comes to men, I think for women, there's very much a sort of storytelling tradition there, particularly with chocolate. But with men, it's just like, well, it's just soap, isn't it? It's just shower gel. I'll just wash with it. Who cares? But I wanted to make that link, I suppose, with occasions.
The self-care bit's really important. I never thought about attaching like your brand to that self-care mental health aspect of it, but it's really important that being kind to yourself or loving yourself in that moment, touching yourself, knowing that you're still here in a way. There's something really quite profound about that, thinking about it.
Yeah, well, there's almost a sort of...
Because you get disconnected so much, to just touch yourself, to connect with yourself is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Well, there's a bit of ceremony, I suppose, to it. You know? I mean, different cultures attach greater importance. Bathing, exactly. Japanese bathing ceremony. There's much more to it than just jump in the shower and rub on some shower gel. It's a big deal. It's sort of almost like you're anointing yourself. Or there's the use of oils and I was going to mention the Romans, and blokes are supposed to think about Romans all the time, aren't they? But the Romans used to have being clean was a big deal if you were in a Roman. Going to the bathhouse, using oils and exfoliation, and it was a big part of Roman society. And if you were unclean, if you stunk, that was a big problem in Roman tradition. And I think in antiquity in general, certainly if you had a bit of money, keeping clean was really important. Meanwhile, over here, we're living in a hole in the ground. 2,000 years ago, it was a bit different. But I do think, as you go around the world and look at different cultures, how cleanliness is treated. My wife is, she's British, but she grew up in Brazil. And in Brazil, they take cleanliness so seriously. I mean, Brazilians will typically they might shower 2-3 times a day, quite normally. It's considered to be, it's hotter in Brazil, but there's a very, very strong tradition of keeping clean. Keep your house clean, keep yourself clean, and people who don't wash are really, really looked down upon. And I think that's a little bit different to the sort of British tradition. I think for a long time, men were sort of almost tolerated as having a bit of body odour because that's what men smell like. We're sweaty blokes, and hence smelly men. The idea of sort of hairy, sweaty blokes. Women having to put up with husbands that don't wash very much or don't really brush their teeth very much. And I think that's changing. Obviously, I think younger guys are much more concerned about their health. They're taking care of themselves in terms of going to the gym, their nutrition. But I still think there's this disconnect between that and what they put on their body to wash with. It's quite interesting. Another example would be the fragrances that men are buying. And they're getting younger and younger. You've got like 13, 14-year-old boys now who are going to fragrance counters in department stores, and they're spending a lot of money on, something like Creed Aventus, which is £200-300 a bottle. And this is a 14-year-old. Meanwhile, they're still washing in, supermarket body wash. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you not using something a lot better for your body? It's like a base for your body to put your expensive cologne on. So it's like we spend the money on the cologne, but not on the base and the washing, which again is an interesting thing.
It's interesting, isn't it, what you actually wash yourself in, because it's getting into your bloodstream, it's getting into you, and you're like, I'm just going to use a Lynx or a what's it, not knowing that really you're poisoning yourself. Well,
that's it, because it just seems fairly kind of innocuous, and it's it doesn't really, because it smells okay, or it smells sort of vaguely citrusy. You sort of think, well, it's probably fine. It doesn't have an immediate reaction.
Yeah.
I'm not coming up in a rash all the time. It's probably okay. But as you say, there's an enormous amount of concern over certain chemicals that go into body washes, which no one really talks about. I think I mentioned before, parabens. It's very common. It's kind of a preservative, but it's been linked with harm to your hormones, your hormonal production, and a hormonal interrupter. And it's rife, it's everywhere, but it's just not really talked about because it doesn't have an obvious impact on your body. And I think it's only when if you start getting blood work done, and you start seeing. I recently went to the GP actually, and I had my blood test done, and some slightly weird numbers were coming out, and the GP was like, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm going to refer it to an endocrinologist to have a look at and say, what's and you have all these sort of different levels, and you sort of, well, is it because of what I'm eating? Is it because I'm in my 50s? What is it? And I think we're starting to open our eyes a lot more to the sort of deeper level of what's going on in our bodies, because for a long time it's just been, well, you're fat, you need to get slimmer, you need to eat the right food, you need to stop eating that or drinking that or stop smoking. There's just a lot more complexity going on in your body, and you have to track down what the culprits are, and it's sort of what's being put into your body other than food, other than alcohol or cigarettes. It's the stuff you're smearing onto your skin, which is the biggest organ in the body, right? So I think increasing awareness of that, I think, is really important, especially for men. And just getting people to ask the question and just pick up the bottle and look on the back and go, okay, at least I know what's in it, or I'm thinking about what's in it.
And do you share this on your social media?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think with social media, you have to sort of create a balance about what you talk about. I think if I'm just the guy that bangs on about chemicals in shower gel, people will switch off pretty quickly. So I have to sort of balance it. But yeah, I do. I'm trying to just get people to think about it. And what I've noticed as well is that unexpectedly, my audience has become mostly female. So I mostly have women buying for their partners, or they're buying for their sons. Because I have a range called Teen Spirit, which is aimed at boys. So it's aimed at boys who are going into puberty, and they just start to stink. Overnight they sort of go from there. Yeah. Exactly. I've got 3 boys, and for years, you just get away with, they have a bath once a week. It's sort of all right. They don't really smell that bad. It's fine. It's probably about time you washed your hair. And then my eldest, who is 13 tomorrow, funnily enough, he's going to become a teenager tomorrow. In the last year or so, I've really started to notice, it's like, it used to be, have you got PE today? And it's now, you did PE today, didn't you? And you really know. And of course, that's a change in his body. His hormones are changing. So he's my sort of test guinea pig, for the products. So I've got this soap and deodorant, excuse me, aimed at teenagers. And I think that's interesting too, because when your kids are babies, you're really, really careful. It's like, buy this really special, gentle body wash, or really gentle soap and gentle conditioner, moisturizer. And then they get to about 5 and it's just like, oh, just give them some body wash, it'll be fine, you know. And we have this sort of period of about 10 years or 8 years or whatever where we don't really think about it. And I thought, well, that can't be right, you know. Surely we want to set our kids off on the right path when it comes to what they put on their skin. So Teen Spirit as a product has been really, really popular. And a lot of mums are buying for their sons because they're now thinking about it. They're thinking, what exactly are they smearing onto their skin when they're in their shower? What are they putting in their hair? And I'm hoping just to raise awareness.
Amazing, man.
Obviously, I'm not the only brand that sells natural products, but I'd like to think that I'm starting to just focus that attention on what men are doing rather than what the broader population is doing, you know. So yeah, it's been really interesting just who has been buying.
So tell me your ranges then. What ranges have you got?
Well, the products themselves are soap, deodorant, and beard oil, and then I have 4 collections.
Yeah.
So I have early doors, day off, scrub up, Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
So it's about occasion and mood. And with Teen Spirit, it's basically you're a kid. The reality is they could use any of them. You know, the soap is not sort of wildly different. It's just more about the profile of the scent. The Teen Spirit soap is peppermint and orange, and teen boys just quite like that.
That zesty.
It's quite zesty.
Yeah.
It's to help them get up in the morning, basically, to go to school. So that's what I always had in mind. It was like you're just lying there in bed, not wanting to get out of bed and put your uniform on and go to school, and this will kind of give you a bit of a buzz and help you go to school and keep you kind of a bit more focused for your school day, or you take it with you and you go to PE and you've got your deodorant, which is to help you smell fresh for the rest of the day, kind of thing. So,
how do people apply the deodorant? How does the deodorant come?
Well, this is another sort of departure from what I was used to, because most people are used to sprays. Well, the natural deodorants are solid, so they come in a tube.
Yeah.
It's not like a roll-on. It's a bit like like a wax for your hair that comes in a tube. It's that sort of consistency, and it basically, if you put it against your skin, the temperature of your skin starts to soften it, and you basically just wipe it with the tube onto your armpit. Because a lot of people have. Do you know why you smell when you get body odor? Do you know what it is? Most people don't realise, and I was the same for a long time. I always assumed it was your sweat. Your sweat just stunk, or it just got a bit stale, and that's why you smelled bad. And it turns out it's not your sweat at all. It's actually bacteria farts. And the reason it's bacteria farts is that in your armpits, in your groin, in your feet, actually on your eyelids as well, you have these little glands, and they're called apocrine glands. And you have them from when you're born, but they don't become active until you reach puberty. And when you reach puberty, when you sweat, they emit a certain kind of sweat that's different to the sweat on your arms or your back or wherever. It's a different kind of sweat. And it's different because it contains hormones. So, for example, you know that sort of cold sweat feeling when you realise you're supposed to be in a meeting and you're 10 minutes late and you're 10 miles away from where you need to. You just have this awful feeling, and you get a cold sweat. It's the same as when you're standing in front of a grizzly bear. Your body doesn't know how to do it. So you sweat, and the hormone within the apocrine gland comes through that sweat. The bacteria on your skin loves that special kind of sweat because of the hormones in it, and it kind of treats it like a buffet, and it kind of chows down on the bacteria, on the sweat, and it produces gas, and that's what smells. So that familiar kind of oniony BO smell is actually bacteria. It's not sweat at all. And if you want to deal with the smell, you've got to use something that neutralizes the bacteria. And most body sprays don't neutralize the bacteria, they just mask the smell. And then lo and behold, the smell comes back a few hours later, and you put more spray on and more spray on. Or you use an antiperspirant, which basically blocks up your pores to try and stop the sweat. But it doesn't really do it. You still get the apocrine glands producing the hormones. And you also just get your pores full of aluminium or something to stop you sweating, which is not healthy at all. So sweating is not unhealthy. There's nothing wrong with sweating. So the good thing about natural deodorants is they contain ingredients which will neutralize this bacteria and stop the smell. And it's really, really effective. I mean, there's certainly other natural deodorants out there. It's not just mine. But the ingredients they have are really straightforward. There's basically sodium bicarbonate, which is really commonplace, and something called arrowroot powder, and that removes moisture. And then you have other ingredients which are basically like emollients for your skin to soothe your skin. So it's a really gentle but incredibly effective way of getting rid of body odor. And I've used it for the last 6-7 months since I've had the brand, and I do jiu-jitsu, and that's a pretty good workout. And I don't stink. So I'm sort of like the test monkey for the deodorants, and all the feedback I get on natural deodorant is amazingly good. And I've actually had feedback from women too, who I had a couple of customers who said, look, I bought this for myself because I'm menopausal and I get hot sweats and nothing seems to deal with the body odor. And I use your natural deodorant, and it sorted it out. So it's been a revelation for me, just as a way of dealing with body odor, but also understanding why we smell the way we do. And I think, overall, it just shows the degree of ignorance, I suppose, about why we smell the way we do, what products we should use, the myths we've been told about the products we should use. So where we started was, well, soap, it dries your skin out, doesn't it? Yeah, it does if you buy shit soap. There was a big change in the way soap was made about 100 years ago. So in the 19th century, if you bought soap, it was proper soap. And then someone figured out, well, soap takes a long time to make. It takes about 5 or 6 weeks to properly cure a soap if it's naturally made. And this is no good. We need to speed up the process. So they took a lot of the natural ingredients out and put in artificial ingredients to basically speed up the process, make it quicker to bang out bars of soap out of a factory. And the net result was, well, yes, you had a soap, a kind of soap, but what it did was it just stripped all the oils out of your skin. And that's when it became associated with dry skin and feeling like tight skin around your face. And a lot of skincare experts or people who are sort of into cosmetics would say, don't use soap, it's really bad for your skin. And they were right, because it was not good. It was bad soap. If you use natural soap, it doesn't have that effect at all because the ingredients are completely different. So that's a really long-standing myth that's been around for a good 100 years or so.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
I think maybe the last soap I used was Imperial Leather.
Yeah, that's a commercial soap, yeah.
I don't think that's good, is it?
I had that in my house as well. Yeah, I mean, so all through my childhood, the soap that we had in our house it's the cheap stuff, and it made your skin feel tight and dry. And I grew up with that, and I probably had that idea for a very long time. So a big part of what I'm trying to do with my brand is to try and, re-educate, but it's a big, long process to do that. And there's only a certain number of people who are ready to hear that message right now. If I had about 10 million quid a year, it might be different, but I'll leave that to the other big brands.
How do you get that message out there? What's your sort of plan on getting your message out there?
Well, right now it's social media. It's organic growth. I run a Shopify store. I've got I have a web. That's how I sell. I sell through my website. There are brands who sell a similar range of products. There's one called Dr. Squatch. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's absolutely huge. It was I think it's about a $200 or $300 million brand. It's based in the US. But it started about 10 years ago. And it was a guy like me. He was in his bedroom, and he just had this similar sort of thought about soap and deodorant for men. And it just grew and grew and grew. It's now funded by private equity and all the rest of it. And they've got big factories. And it's a completely different scale. But a lot of their messaging is doing that kind of work of saying, look, what you're washing in right now is basically dish soap. It's basically fairy liquid. don't do that. Use something much better that smells better, you know. So I suppose from a strategy point of view, it's like, well, they can do that work for me to some extent, because I'm never going to be able to compete, you know. And it comes to things like Google search, you know, they're going to be number one all day, every day. I can't compete with that. So I just have to accept that and then sort of pick up some of the crumbs on the edge, I suppose. But I think what is surprising to me is that even though I might think of someone like Dr. Squatch as being a big brand, compared to L'Oreal, they're minuscule, you know, and that's the scale of the industry. You know, it's like looking at the sun compared to Mercury or something. It's absolutely enormous, and it kind of takes you aback how big skincare and cosmetics is, and it's nearly all aimed at women. You know, and the men's category is a lot smaller. It's still pretty large, but it's very, very small compared to the female category. And all of that messaging that's swirling around, and then there's this tiny, tiny microscopic little area called men's natural skincare. And navigating that is interesting, shall we say? Because my background is advertising. You know? Is it? Yeah. So I spent a good 25 years working in ad agencies. You know, spending other people's money. Yeah. And then it comes to having your own brand. It's a very different experience, you know, and it's very hard to be objective for obvious reasons, but it's reminding yourself that, you know, just because you like your brand doesn't mean anyone else is gonna. And why would anyone take any notice? And all the things I used to talk to clients about when I was spending their money. Yeah. And you have to apply that to yourself, and it's quite hard to do that sometimes. Well, most of the time, actually. So I try to bring some objectivity, but it is quite hard to do that. And the other thing I found is I really appreciate what clients go through, what they have to think about. And when you work in, I mean, you work in the same business, you work in the advertising and marketing business, but when you're in that business, you think what you're doing is on their mind all the time. Yeah. And of course it's not. It's like 5% of their day, 10% of their, whatever it is. But you just think, oh yeah, but we do the ads. You must be really excited about the fact we're going to talk about advertising. And it's just like, no, I've got an hour today to talk about it. The rest of the time I'm doing other shit. And then it's taken me this long to start my own brand and realize that I've got about 10, 20 different plates to spin. And I don't know which one to spin more, you know. And I guess, well, you run your own business, so you know you've got lots of plates to spin. But it's been interesting, that sort of process of just being focused on what I did in an agency to now I've got to think about everything. Oh no, there's no one else to do it. Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun as well.
Just keep building your brand, mate. What you've got, you know, and just keep spreading that message. You know, it's slowly, surely. You know, I'm sure at some point you'll put some Facebook ads on. I'm sure you'll.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's generating enough cash to do it. Really, it's a big draw on your resources.
It is, but like, you know, if you've got your messaging right, which, you know, by the sounds of it, you've already got it right. You know, getting the creative right is not going to be that hard. And you know, if you spend something like £5 a day on Facebook a day, I think you'll get a lot of return on your investment from that, mate. Yeah. Because you've got your creative and your brand right.
Do you do a lot of Google and Meta advertising?
We don't really. I don't. Google, you've got to spend a lot of money to get your ROI. Yeah. But Meta, you know what I mean? You're spending £5 a day if you get your creative right and get a lot of purchases or leads or whatever that is that, you know, that person wants. It's all about the creative. Yeah. It's all about getting that messaging right, and does it really emotionally, the story, hit with that person? And if it does, they're just going to buy.
And you can spend all day, every day thinking about content, can't you? Yeah. And that's the time suck, I find.
Massive. You know, I feel that a lot of businesses, I think sometimes they know the business inside and out, and I feel sometimes the head gets in the way. Where I'm more of I work on a bit more sort of intuition. I get more into my heart space, and when I do ads that come from my heart space and not my logical side, they work a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
Because people can feel it on it.
The spontaneity of it as well.
Yeah, the spontaneity of it. It just...
I think...
People buy from people, you know that, don't you?
Of course they do.
Yeah, and if you can do an ad that a person's talking to, not some sort of scripted...
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. And I think another sort of interesting transition for me is... Because I worked in the sort of more traditional advertising industry where it was, TV, radio, outdoor,
this is all different.
Print.
Yeah.
It's so different.
Yeah.
And the freedom is great because you're not going through lots of sort of client meetings and sort of approval processes. It's like, should we do this? Yeah, let's do that. And we just pick up a camera and we do it. Because I work with my wife and she's got her own brand doing something else, but she works with me on this. And I'll say to her, look, I was in the car and I thought maybe we could do such and such. And she says, yeah, we'll just do that this afternoon. Yeah, fine. And that's really freeing. But at the same time, it's like, oh no, we could do anything. What should we do? What's the best idea? Should we do 10 ideas, 1 idea? And then you sort of put it out there and you just think, oh, please like it. Please think it's good. And you just go through this sort of constant creative anxiety.
You can't get caught up in that nonsense. It's just like, you just got to be producing content. We try to do 2 to 3 a day, and
Yeah. Is that sort of Instagram posts or reels?
Yeah,
or,
everything from Instagram to TikTok to LinkedIn to Facebook to YouTube Shorts to put it on YouTube. You're just getting the brand out there. And
TikTok feels like another beast to me.
Yeah, you do so well on TikTok, mate. We did it.
Yeah,
especially you got your son involved in it as well.
Yeah, I find I don't know what it is. I think I can see a lot of people doing really well on TikTok. And
why wouldn't you do very well?
Well, I think it's probably because I haven't put enough focus on it, and it feels like almost like a foreign country, which is my problem, not TikTok's, And TikTok are really, they're obviously really keen on getting a lot of sellers that they're dragging people.
TikTok shop for you, you'd kill it.
Yeah, I've got a TikTok shop. It's just more about getting it to work for me. I've made a few sales, but not a lot. I think it's sort of trying to get my head round how it works, because it feels very, very rapid, and it feels a lot more kind of market stall. It's like, all right, I've got this offer for you, I've got this. And it's much more straightforward selling. It feels like to me.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. But yeah.
It is that.
Yeah.
It is that, but you just got to you've got to sort of evolve into that platform. And if that's what people want, they look like the quick purchase now, then you got to do content for that. I feel like social media for me sometimes a bit like going on a night out, and you kind of sort of like start off on Facebook and you're in a sort of wine bar, you're having deep conversation and that's it.
Yeah.
You have a few more drinks and you move over to Instagram and it's a bit more lively and you're thinking, it's engaging, you're telling a few jokes, and then you have a few more drinks, get leathered, and you go to TikTok nightclub and you're just like, fucking don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's got that energy,
I've got that kind of, when I'm doing social stuff, I'm like, is it hitting where I'm up to in my night?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think TikTok has definitely got it's the last place you go to when it's 2 a.m. and you're just going a bit crazy kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't War and Peace on there. People are all for War and Peace. They just want little 5-second, 10-second videos where I'm just like, listen, I'm pissed. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it's a bit...
Get to the point.
Yeah. Admit that's probably where I just need to do, right, here's some soap. This is what it does. This is what it smells
Perfect,
like.
mate. Perfect.
Bye.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's just going back to the whole kind of plate spinning thing. It's I could spend all day, every day, just coming up with ideas for ads, and then it's like, by the way, you need to look at your website. And is your website doing a good job? Is it actually helping people buy? Are you And then have you got this little widget working on your Shopify store? And then have you got and what's your SEO doing? And what's Google Analytics saying? And it's like, oh my God, how do I keep track of all this?
You blow it up quick on TikTok, Obviously get your Shopify hooked up to your TikTok, which I'm sure you've done and stuff. And then just do them little quick ones like that, mate.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Get your son doing them. Maybe get some and send them out to people that you like and go, well, you tried this, nothing in return, but if you do like it, would you do as a video?
Yeah.
Just get it going like that. And then one will just like go off and you'll be like...
Well, TikTok
cost you nothing.
Well, absolutely right. And TikTok are chucking money at it as well. You know, it kind of took me aback because I was sort of listing my products, and it's like, hang on a minute, you're doing what, free delivery? I didn't offer free delivery. It's like, no, they're paying for it. And it's like, oh, okay. And you're doing a deal and you're paying, oh, fine. So I still make the same money. That's okay then.
Class, mate.
Yeah. It's like it's free
That's
money.
what you need to do when you leave here. That's what you need to do.
I'm going to...
Honestly, mate.
I totally agree.
Just follow some people that you like and then just say, look, I'm seeing some stuff out. It's a great name. It's got a great brand vision attached to it. And people just like, oh, I just bought Smelly Men today. Instead, they want something to talk about. Yeah. And that brand name is something to talk about.
Do you work with micro-influencers and kind of kind of stuff?
Not per se, no. I know some of our clients do and stuff like that, but I like to go out to our clients and do videos and collaborations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Don't know. It's just like, I always say to clients, it's like, look, you've only got 100 people following us. I'm like, 100 people following you? Like, fucking imagine if they keep buying off you again and again.
Yeah.
Don't focus on getting loads of that. Just focus on getting 100 super fans who love what you're about, and they just keep. What a great fucking business you've got. Then 100 people just keep buying off you.
It's a good point. It's good because people for a long time were sort of focused on you need thousands and thousands of followers. But you're absolutely right. If you've got people who are super fans, you know, as you say.
Another one is like YouTube. People have got this thing in their head about YouTube about getting this many subscribers and monetize my channel and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, I just create really good content on YouTube, and I've got one client off it who's paying fucking 20 odd grand for a branding job.
Really?
I'm just like, that's what people need to be at.
Yeah.
Like, stop focusing on the subscribers and monetizing and all this. It's just like do really nice content so somebody finds you, just like gets that job off you, your high ticket price.
Yeah. It's that formula of because I've got a few subscribers, people who are sort of like, they like the product enough that they'll buy it every month or every 6 weeks.
Amazing,
or whatever. Not enough, but it sort of gives you confidence because you think, well, those people get it. You know, they realise that this is something you want on a regular basis. Yeah. What do I need to do to replicate that? Yeah. How do I make that happen? And it applies to any brand online, I suppose. It's sort of the balance between, you know, selling something that is a sort of commodity. I don't know, like car batteries. You know, you need car batteries when your battery's flat. It's just like, I need a battery, I need a battery. Yeah. You go on Google and it's like, I'm not that fussed who's selling it to me. Yeah. Is it the right price? And then you've got the sort of, well, I want to buy into the brand type purchase. I want to feel good about who I'm dealing with. And I think I'm more on that side.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's trying to sort of balance out, because my instinct is, I just want to sell my products. But you've got to do the brand build and the relationship build, and it's important. Yeah.
Massive, mate. You know, just like see so many people building businesses where really they need to build the brand.
Yeah, because I want people to buy into me because it's my baby. Yeah. I believe in what I'm doing, and I want people to see that I'm not some bullshitter. You know, I'm actually genuinely committed to this. And to see me as someone that they can actually contact, you know, because I'm a really small business, and it's sort of like, and my face is literally on the product. You know, that is my face. It was taken from a photo. It sounds so egotistical when I say it out loud, but my wife did some portraits of me. She was just playing with her camera, and she just said, sit in front of the camera and I'll take some pictures of you. And I was mucking about, and I just yelled at the camera, like shouting at the camera, and she caught it. And it was just this really lovely portrait of me just yelling. And when we were thinking about the branding, she said, why don't you use that? And I was like, I probably couldn't I? And I've got one of my mates who I used to work with years ago who's a designer. And I said, could you do anything with this, you know, branding-wise? And he just came up with what is now my brand identity. And so I'm quite literally stuck on all of my products.
Amazing.
So I'm you know, I've got to run with it. And
you've just got to double down on your content for me, James. But what I'd focus on is not so much, you know, I say this a lot, not what you're doing, but who you are as a person. and who you are as a person probably needs to show up a lot more than actually you try to sell products and services. If we let people buy into you as a person, and then they'll buy your product. If that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
It's so hard because I always use the analogy of like a lot of people put the cart before the horse. And the cart is obviously your services and the products you're offering, but the brand sits behind the cart and you're fucking pushing it. It's like, no, that's a fucking pushy horse. It's like, bring the horse to the front of the cart. If it wants to be a fucking unicorn, it can be whoever you want it to be. But it's best if you're authentic and you are yourself, and more people buy from the cart.
I would love to think that's true, and I'm sure you're right.
It is 100%, mate. We as a brand, we put out one piece of work a week, just one on a Wednesday. The rest of it's just character and personality and brand building. Just showing off who we are as people, and people just got, I really like to work with them lot. And the work speaks for itself.
You do quite a mix of sort of long form and short form, don't you?
Just mix it up, mate. You know, sometimes we do a thing, we're doing it tomorrow, which is we've called it Chat GWT, which is Gaz, Will and Tim, and we just get questions off our clients and just answer them.
Right.
So we get that long form, put it on YouTube, and then there's 5 questions. We'll clip them 5 questions down and then just put them on. So.
How long do you spend on it a week, would you say, the content side of it?
I think the content side of it, I think Sean spends a full day and I think Will spends a full day on it. So it's like two days a week. And then they just batch it.
But it's like a machine now. It's working. No, I take your advice. I think it's
right or wrong, mate. It's just the way we do it. And
I think it's really good advice. I do, and my wife actually says much the same thing. You know, it's people want to hear about you. They want to hear about your life or your view on stuff, and not that I'm a sort of like an opinion former necessarily. It's just more like they feel like they've got a bit more of a relationship.
I think there's too many influences in this, mate, and not enough role models.
Right.
And especially in this day and age of this toxic masculinity thing, there's people, talking about Tom Blackledge at What's It. They're the people that I want kids to follow. People like yourself as well. And kind of go, this is identity. This is integrity. These are what values are. This is what you should aim for.
I did something on that this week. I was talking about. I saw something that was mentioned on Radio 4. It was like a podcast on Radio 4, and there was a question, and it was probably just the way it was phrased, but it was sort of saying, should we be persuading young boys that changing nappies is sort of cool and sexy and masculine and it's like, it's my issue with it was, it's not about persuading boys that doing stuff around the house or helping with the children is cool or it's okay. It's just like, it's a fundamental part of being an adult. It's a fundamental part of being a grown-up man, and thinking about what men are for. And I think a lot of men, especially young men, are struggling with that, and they're not quite sure what they're for and what they're designed for, and are they just there to go out and get a job and provide money, or is there something much more plural about it, and what's considered masculine or what's considered feminine? It's sort of just a bit redundant as a question. It's sort of like, well, I've got 3 kids, and it wasn't a question that I asked myself, oh, should I be doing this? It's like, well, they're my kids, of course I should be doing this. And just being a bit more, how do you become secure in your own masculinity? And the conclusion I always come to is that you need role models. You need people around you, other men that you can look to and say, that's okay. He does that. He talks about that. He talks about vulnerability. He talks about childcare. He talks about whatever it is.
Amazing.
And that's who you follow. And I think men have always done this over the years, over the centuries, is that you need men that you can look up to, you can respect, you can learn from, who set the tone, set the example.
I mean, I was very fortunate not to be around in social media. We did talk about this on our GWT the other day about, I don't know about the person I will be. I think I'd be too influenced by social media. But I was very fortunate my dad wasn't around, but what I did find was films, and Star Wars was my almost role model. Yoda, right. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, and I was like, oh my God, that just feels good for me.
Because it's very fatherly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way of being and not giving into anger or fear and, you know, looking a bit more sort of stoic, detached from things. And I'm like, you know, Superman and Batman, and I like, wow, you know, they were my heroes.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate enough to aspire to be like that. My sort of moral compass was aligned with theirs.
Yes, there's something very calming and reassuring about those kind of paternal figures.
Yeah.
Like you say, Yoda.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of the advice of Yoda, or actually, in a strange sort of way, you know, Darth Vader, even though he's the sort of villain of the piece, there's
still good inside of him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because he's like dealing with his own trauma. Yeah. His internal conflict. Yeah. I've loved it.
There was always something very appealing about Darth Vader, and I've never thought about this very deeply, but it's something to do with the I
think it's the darkness inside of all of us. We've all got that darkness that we could give into that fear. We could give into that anger very, very, very easily.
Yes, it does exist within all of us. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I think you've got to not just come to terms with it and be all right with it. It's within you. Not try to say, no, I've not got it and get rid of it. But, you know, the shadow work that you do, you've got to be all right with it.
I find that fascinating, though. I love that idea, what you just said of, you know, because your dad wasn't around, that you had father figures within films.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, mate. I mean, I used to go to the video shop it was 4 days, and I'd get about 3 or 4 films out and just immerse myself in films.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Star Wars is the one that always really, really connected with me. That hero's journey that Luke went through, the people within it, I just thought, wow.
Yeah, and I think we find role models in the sort of all kinds of places. I mean, you found them in films, and I found them in not only my own dad, because my relationship with my dad was not perfect at all. I mean, he was around, but he was a very emotionally unavailable, I think you would put it, because he was a product of his generation, and he was someone that was put into boarding school.
Yeah, I was in boarding school.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, he was put in when he was 6.
Yeah, it fucked me up, that, mate.
I bet it did.
Fucked me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was put in it when he was 6, and his mum and dad took him to the school.
Yeah.
And they left him in the office, and then he fucked off. They just left him.
Yeah.
And he's 6. And I'm thinking of my boys at 6 years old. If we just disappeared, what that would have done to him.
The abandonment issues I've had, and I've had to like go through and stuff like that. When I realised that I was abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, it just, when I come to that realisation, it just broke me. And I've done a lot of plant medicine and shadow work and inner child work and stuff to go back to him and little Tim and hold him in my arms and saying, it's all right, mate, it's all right.
I wish my dad could have done that.
Yeah.
He's not around anymore, but he was, he didn't really know how to be a dad because he didn't really see his dad.
Yeah.
And he just did the best he could. And I think it took me a long time to realise that. I had to grow up. I had to get to probably my 30s or 40s.
Beautiful, mate. Growing up, it's like something I really... Someone told me you need to grow up. And I don't want to grow up, I want to be Peter Pan. But really what they were saying is you need to get rid of adolescent behaviour.
Yeah.
You need to get rid of all this adolescent behaviour. And I was like, oh shit, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You're not saying grow up, we have to get rid of me Peter Pan curiosity and stuff like that. You just need to get rid of these childlike, why have you got that and I've not got that?
Right. Yeah. The growth. I love the fact that it's so much more acceptable, if that's the right word, for men to do that kind of work on themselves. You know, if you talked about what you just described 20 years ago, you'd have probably got quite a lot of shit for it.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that we can now broach those subjects, we can say, well, I did this kind of work, or I did some therapy, or whatever it is, it's very freeing. There's a lot to do, but we're in a much better environment for that kind of thing. But I still think there's an awful lot of men out there who just cannot allow themselves to do that. They cannot allow themselves to be vulnerable. And
yeah, I mean, the opening the heart has been the biggest thing for me, because my heart, because obviously the abandonment, you get massive trust issues. You won't let anybody in your life, because anybody that comes into your life, you're just literally pushing away. Anybody who does anything wrong, you're pushing them away. Like fucking cut off thing, like fucking cutting them off.
Yeah.
And you're just getting rid of beautiful relationships.
Yeah.
So I think my work was just opening my heart back up and just trusting trusting myself.
Yeah.
And loyalty, and just like, and once that happened, fucking hell, the things that happened in my life, the relationships that I've built and people I was letting into my life, it's been profound.
And did you do that with a range of different therapy types?
Yeah. Well, the biggest one was mushrooms.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Psilocybin.
Yeah.
It's been the biggest one for me.
Was that like a controlled thing? Or
controlled ceremony environment.
Right.
I mean, Sandra's been on the podcast about 2-3 times now. Who she's my spiritual guide. She sends me messages and stuff. And
she was the one that did.
Did the thing. Yeah, but my last one, I've done 3 now. My last one, they call it the hero's dose.
Wow.
Which is 7 milligrams, and you're just like, what the fuck?
I find that really interesting.
Yeah, the first 2 was petrifying, mate, but the last one was profound. In it, I was just shown so much love for myself. I don't know how long it lasts, this blissful piece of like just loving myself that much. I'm amazing that I just started crying. I was like, I've never ever felt that much love for myself as much for that long of a period of time.
The closest because I've never done any psychedelics or anything like mushrooms before, but the closest I've ever felt like that was about 20 years ago. I trained in something called shiatsu, which is similar to...
It's a pressure point massage, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and it was a really profound kind of experience working with people like that, because you're... for some patients or some clients, they never have any physical contact with anyone. And for you to, because it's not like a massage in the sense of, you've got oils and you're rubbing their skin. You're working with someone who's fully clothed, but you're making a physical contact with someone by applying pressure. And the results are amazing. I mean, I had people in floods of tears because you reach something within them that gets released. And there was one particular lady that I treated, and I never thought about it being me doing something extraordinary. It was almost like it was opening up something. It was like sort of turning a key.
Yeah, removing blockages.
Yeah. So it's not me adding something amazing. It's just sort of trying to release something and allowing something to flow. But this particular lady, she'd had a marriage where she'd been married about 20 years, and her husband had been unfaithful to her within about 2 weeks of them being married. And they'd stayed together, and she'd had to suck it up and bottle it all up, this sense of betrayal that had happened. And her marriage had been rocky, but she'd had kids and they'd been together, and she just had this relationship with her husband which was damaged from the word go. And to the point where her periods had stopped, everything about her just like frozen. And I treated her for about 2 months, and there was this particular occasion where it all just came out. Wow. And that was really amazing. And I like I said, it was about 25 years ago. And for various reasons, I just didn't carry on with that kind of work. And my wife often says to me, God, you've got to get back to doing that. Because I treat her sometimes, and there is something really amazing about body work.
Yeah, that connection.
Yeah. And just the idea that you're just in connection with another human being. Yeah. And weirdly enough, going back to jiu-jitsu, there's something about kind of mock fighting, which is really beneficial for men. And I don't mean trying to punch each other in the head.
Just sort of that playful. Yeah, I get that.
because, you know, they always say that, particularly with boys, but it applies to all kids, but particularly with boys, they're kind of wrestling and mucking about with your dad on the carpet and throwing each other around a bit. It's really beneficial for boys, and I think it's true of men. And there's something very addictive about this idea that we can kind of play rough, and we can throw each other around a bit, and
but there's nothing in it.
But we all trust each other.
Yeah.
You know, I know that if someone's going to try and put a choke on me, they're going to let go when I tap, and that's quite profound as well. And it's like all the guys I train with, we know each other through jiu-jitsu. We're not all like best buddies outside of jiu-jitsu, but we come together to do this thing called jiu-jitsu. And it's just, we understand that we have this trust between us, that we could hurt each other really quite badly, but we don't, because we trust each other. And I don't really know how to explain it, but it just has this very positive effect. It's an outlet. It's not just like going to the gym and lifting weights, which is great, but it's a different kind of outlet. And it's something that I don't think men really talk about very much. And I suppose in the old traditions of sort of male kind of growth, you know, you think about sort of like royal princes. You know, they were taught in combat, but they were also taught to use their brain. They were taught Latin and Greek, but they were taught how to kill someone with a sword. And it was a sort of complete education. So it was like exercising the brain as well as the body. And don't quite know where I'm going with this, but I just think there's...
I get it, mate. It's just that balance of all the things. It's what we're saying about Tom Blackledge when he cried on the podcast, and then he was so insightful about Stoic philosophers, and I was just like, that's a man. That's a man.
What brought him to it? Was there a point where he just sort of opened his mind to things?
No. You'd have to watch the podcast, mate, because you'd really enjoy it. He's an amazing... I need to get him on again, but it just happened for him in flow, and it wasn't any reason. Just everything happened just the right reason for him.
Yeah.
And you know, when I see that, it's not come from trauma, it's not come from anything. It's just because that's his calling.
Very inspiring.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch that, because I just think it opens.
There's more people like that we need in this world.
Oh, totally.
Honestly, mate. Honestly.
Totally agree, and I think if you have kids, particularly if you have sons, I think there's a big job for us to do to create more men like that, and to allow men like that to develop, and not get shut down and not get told, well, that's not right. You can't do that. You can't talk about those things because that's not what men do. It's like, no, that's just not true. real men. I mean, I hate using that expression, but real men do all of those things. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It's good. It's positive and healthy. Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to buy Smelly Men, where do they go to buy Smelly Men?
Smellymen.co.uk.
Instagram, Smelly Men.
Yeah, Smelly Men Official, at Smelly Men Official. Got a link tree on my Instagram profile. I'm also on TikTok, again, at Smelly Men Official. And I should be on TikTok a bit more.
Correct. Thank you, James. Appreciate you, mate.
No problem.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.
Tim Marner, what, you brand new